You may have noticed this in your own area, or perhaps while visiting someone else. One small balcony looks full of life. Green leaves, steady growth, and a feeling of quiet abundance. Just nearby, another space looks almost the same in size, yet the plants seem weak, slow, or even stuck. What makes this more surprising is how quickly the difference appears. Within a few weeks, one space begins to fill out, while the other struggles to show progress. It does not take months or years to see it. The change is often visible early on. Over time, many experienced growers have seen this pattern repeat again and again. It shows up in cities, in small homes, on patios, and even in simple containers. And yet, for someone just starting, it can feel confusing. If your plants have not done as well as you hoped, or if your space feels too small to grow much, you are not doing anything wrong. This is a very common feeling. Most people begin in the same place. There is a small shift in thinking that changes everything. Once you notice it, your space begins to feel more useful even if it has not changed in size. Before we get into what works, it helps to understand why small spaces behave differently in the first place. When space is limited, it is natural to think that adding more plants will bring better results. It feels like a simple equation. More plants should mean more food. But in smaller areas things work a little differently. Plants share the same light, the same air, and the same soil space. When too many are placed together, they begin to compete. Not in an obvious way but slowly, quietly. This competition often leads to weaker growth. Leaves may stay smaller. Roots may not spread as they should. And over time, the whole space feels less productive, even though more effort has been added. On the other hand, when the right number of plants are chosen, and when they fit the space well, something changes. Each plant has room to breathe. Light reaches more leaves. Water and nutrients are used more evenly. This is why some small spaces produce more than expected. It is not about size. It is about balance. Once you begin to see this, the idea of gardening in a small space becomes less stressful. It becomes more about gentle adjustment than hard work. There is also a simple pattern that experienced gardeners follow, even if they do not always explain it directly. When they choose plants for a small space, they tend to look for certain qualities. Some plants prefer to grow upward. Instead of spreading across the ground, they move toward the light. This means they use less horizontal space. Other plants continue to produce over time. Instead of giving everything at once, they offer small harvests again and again. This steady pattern works well when space is limited. And then there are plants that naturally stay compact. They do not spread too far. They remain contained and manageable, which makes them easier to grow in pots or small beds. When a plant has one or more of these traits, it often feels more comfortable in a small space. It grows without much struggle. It settles in rather than pushing against its limits. Once you begin to notice these qualities, choosing what to grow becomes much simpler. You are no longer guessing. You are simply observing what fits. This quiet understanding often leads to better results, even without adding more effort. For many people, it also helps to see some early success. Waiting too long for results can feel discouraging, especially in the beginning. This is where faster-growing vegetables can make a big difference. They do not require special effort. They simply move at a quicker pace. Leafy greens are a good example. When they are comfortable, they begin to show growth within a short time. Small leaves appear, then slowly expand. Within weeks, the space looks more alive. Radishes also follow this gentle but quick pattern. They do not stay hidden for long. Their growth becomes visible sooner than many other vegetables. These early results can bring a sense of calm. They show that the space is working, that things are moving in the right direction. If your past experience has felt slow, that is completely okay. Not all plants grow at the same pace. Some simply take longer. But having a few quick growers nearby can make the whole process feel more encouraging. Another quiet change happens when you begin to use vertical space. Instead of thinking only about the ground, you start to notice the space above it. Some plants naturally reach upward when given a little support. Beans and cucumbers are good examples of this. They do not need much room at the base. Instead, they climb. Even a simple support, like a light frame or a few strings, can guide them upward. There is no need for anything complex. The goal is simply to give them direction. As they grow, the space begins to feel different. Feels taller, more open, yet also more productive. Leaves are no longer crowded at the bottom. Light can reach more areas. Air can move more freely. This often leads to healthier growth without needing extra effort. Over time, using height can make a small space feel much larger than it actually is. At the same time, there are plants that stay small but continue to give steady results. Some varieties of tomatoes and peppers are naturally compact. They do not spread too far, yet they still produce over time. Herbs also fit this pattern. They grow in a contained way and can be used little by little. You do not need to harvest everything at once. These plants show that a garden does not need to be large to be useful. Even a few well-chosen plants can provide steady value. This is often the point where many people begin to feel more confident. The space no longer feels like a limitation. It starts to feel like something that can be managed with ease. There is one common habit that can quietly slow things down, especially in small spaces. It usually comes from a good place. Wanting to grow more, to make full use of every inch. So another plant is added. Then maybe one more. At first, everything looks full and promising. But over time, the plants begin to crowd each other. Roots share the same small area. Leaves overlap. Light becomes uneven. The growth may slow down. Plants may not look as strong as expected. This can feel confusing, especially when more effort has been given. But the reason is often simple. There is just not enough space for each plant to grow comfortably. This happens to many people. It is a very natural step in learning. The good news is that it can be corrected gently. Giving each plant a little more room often brings back balance. Sometimes, removing just one plant can improve the whole container. This is where the idea becomes clear again. Doing less can lead to better results. Another factor that quietly shapes your garden is the climate around you. Some vegetables feel comfortable in warmer temperatures. They grow steadily when the days are warm and the nights are mild. Others prefer cooler conditions. They grow best when the air is softer and not too hot. If your area is warm most of the year, certain plants will naturally feel more at home. If your climate is cooler, other choices may be easier to manage. This does not mean you are limited. It simply means some plants will match your environment better than others. When a plant struggles, it is not always because of something you did. Sometimes, it is just not the right time or the right condition for that plant. Understanding this can bring a sense of relief. It removes the pressure to fix everything. Over time, you begin to notice what grows well in your space and during which season. That quiet observation becomes your best guide. If you feel like sharing, you might take a moment to think about what has worked for you, even in a small way, or what you are hoping to grow next. There is no need to rush or plan everything at once. Even small experiences can be helpful, both for you and for others who are learning the same way. In the end, a small space can offer more than it first appears. It simply asks for a different kind of attention. When you choose plants that fit the space, when you give them enough room, and when you allow them to grow at their own pace, the results often become steady and reliable. There is no need to force anything. No need to overfill the space. With time, small changes begin to add up. The space feels easier to manage. The plants grow with less stress. And the harvest, even if modest, becomes consistent. There is a quiet comfort in that kind of gardening. And often the simplest idea remains true. Do less. Get more.